This is the Environmental Protection Commission. It's a regular meeting. It's Wednesday, July 10, 2024. The first piece of new business is EPC 14-2024, PL-24-95, 10 Nickerson Lane, J. Vinci and L. Vinci, to install a residential dock consisting of a fixed pier, ramp, and float in and along Holly Pond and other areas of resource. The property lies along the south side of Nickerson Lane, approximately 715 feet west of Nearwater Lane, and is identified as map number 52, lot 8. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 0.989 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, this application is on the agenda this evening for acceptance to start the statutory time clock and to establish if this commission wants to have a public hearing on the application, and also to solicit your preliminary comments if you have any. It's for those of you who've been on the commission for some period of time, this property had been the subject of an EPC permit application some number of years ago. It was approved that there was a single-family dwelling and pool and other related facilities constructed. They're now back before the commission. They want to install a residential dock on the parcel. They've already secured their state permits and are looking for the local permits before EPC and planning and zoning in order to move forward with the project. I'm available to answer any questions to the extent that I can, but decide about the hearing, and then if you have anything preliminarily to say, and we'll forward it to them as we do our review.
No?
Yes, one item that would be helpful is similar to what Rick did with the YMCA, is had them put in a little berm area, some low plants to try to prevent any sheet flow of any pesticides, fertilizers that the lawn would have. I think that would be a great add. We're starting to do that more often, and I would hope that they would do the same thing in this case.
And I just looking at the project narrative, I didn't see whether lights were specified, but obviously a preference that there be no lights installed on the dock.
Knowing we're dealing with Holly Pond, I know Commissioner Wright will protect all of our interests. I have no question.
Well, we expect some photos, right, Jim?
That's right.
Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so I agree with what Bill said. I saw that there was no plan to have plantings, but I agree that even though the what they're doing is minimal, there's still some impact, and so I think having something there to filter the runoff and slow and filter the runoff is a good idea. I also just had a question about the whole apparatus itself. In the May 2024 engineering summary, it said that it will not cause an increase in the base flood elevation at the site or cause adverse impacts with respect to flooding. Does that phrase, adverse impacts with respect to flooding, does that specify, should we assume that there's no, that it indicates that the proposed structures are flood-proof?
No.
Okay.
Separate.
Is that something that we could just get confirmation
Yes.
on?
Mm-hmm.
And also in the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection authorization, they list several conditions, and one of them, item number 18, states that if not kept in optimal condition, it shall be removed and restored, and the affected water is restored to pre-work condition. So the question is, what kind of maintenance is required on this kind of thing, and how will it be managed? How will it be managed and enforced? And that's all I have.
Okay, Rick, I got one. As I recall, when we had, was it 17 Nickerson? The 17 Nickerson, that exciting, those exciting hearings. That was a resource area that was defined by the state of Connecticut as a special area of concern or natural habitat Okay, we never got a really great definition explanation as to why they designated that area. But the question comes back is that going to be affected? Because they didn't designate that area because they decided to. They designated it for a reason. And is this going to affect their, is that going to affect it? I don't know whether it's, if this was Cape Cod, I'd say it's plovers. The plovers are nesting, and so you can't do anything. But I would like to, if you could take a look into that.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
I would be tempted to propose a public hearing in the interest of having the neighbors or public interest. But I'm willing to be talked out of that.
So I remind you that it has to go to planning and zoning too for CAM review.
Okay.
And they do a public hearing there.
Good, then I'll withdraw that. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Anything? Okay, moving on. Full business, EPC number 8, 2024 PL 224-47, 1 Thorndale Circle, TC NE Metro Development, Inc., to demolish existing commercial structures, parking, and other related facilities, and construct a new residential community consisting of 5 multifamily buildings, garages, amenity areas, driveways, parking, drainage, utilities, landscaping, and other related features in an approximate 2 wetlands, watercourses, and special flood hazard areas. A total of 175 dwelling units are proposed. The approximately 11.0 acre property, which currently supports Thorndale Circle Office Park, is generally bordered by Interstate 95 north, Hecker Avenue and the Darien Police Station, and 3 and 6 Thorndale Circle to the south, Thorndale Circle / Boston Post Road to the southeast, 1355 Boston Post Road to the east, and Freight Court to the west. The property consists of the following parcels by the Office of the Darien Tax Assessor. 1 Thorndale Circle, map 39, lot number 18. The zone is D0 and it is approximately 1.958 acres. 16 Thorndale Circle, map number 39, lot number 39, lot 11. The zone is D0, DO. It is approximately 2.363 acres. 22 Thorndale Circle, map number 39, lot number 17B. Lot is DO. It is approximately 4.343 acres. And Hecker Avenue, map number 39, lot number 9. The zone is R1/3 and it is approximately 2.34 acres. Before we get started, I would like to hear, I as a member, I've been to all the meetings and reviewed the material and feel comfortable voting tonight. I would like to go through the other commissioners here to make sure that if you were not here last meeting, to state that you have reviewed the video and the material respectively and that you feel comfortable voting tonight.
Yes, I was not present, but I did listen to 79, and I also went through all the material, so I am comfortable to vote if need be.
And I was also not present in June, but I did listen to the entirety of the video on TV 79 and read any of the material that was submitted.
I was also out of town with family on June 5. I reread, because I had done so earlier, but I've reread all of the submissions that go with this application as prepared, and with Rick's help, easy to bring up in our system, and I watched Channel 79 from start to finish. Sir.
I was present for both hearings in May and June.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a copy of the resolution. The commissioners have a copy of the resolution that was drafted by Rick. Questions, comments?
I forwarded a series of minor edits to Rick, and he'll have those and deal with them accordingly.
Okay. Okay, so
You have comments?
Oh, do you want to go that
No,
way?
you should go first.
I have a couple of comments on the draft resolution. The first one is at the top of page 4. It states that 60 trees will be removed from the non-regulated portions of the site, but that does not accurately reflect what Mr. Williams stated at the May 22nd hearing. It's a net loss of 60 trees. He said that 174 trees would be removed and 114 would be planted. So I think we should just have the resolution accurately reflect that. Also, at the bottom of the page,
Which page?
4.
4.
It says existing leak-offs that currently drain pavement directly to Stony Brook shall be eliminated. This is just a word order thing. It didn't sound, it sounded to me like pavement was being drained. I wondered if we should perhaps change it to existing leak-offs in the pavement that currently drain to Stony Brook shall be eliminated. But that's just a, depending on how you think it sounds. Also on page 5, bullet number 6, I was a little concerned about the phrase limitations on the use of fertilizers, herbicides in the upland review area, because as I understood Mr. Williams, he stated at the last public hearing that the entire property will be managed by organic land care professionals, and that in fact organic land care is part of their branding. So I thought that perhaps a sentence like important elements include commitments to the use of accredited professionals who practice organic land care might better reflect what was discussed. Otherwise I'm a little concerned that there's nothing marking the upland review area, because normally we ask that people put in boulders or a split rail fence or something, and we discuss the impracticality of that for this site. So given that he is committed to doing the entire site that way, I think that it should be stated. And I also found a place actually there's a very comprehensive draft of a landscape operations and maintenance manual. I think it's actually one of the best we've ever seen, or that since I've been on the commission, dated April 24th, and under item number 11, where it talks about vendor management, it says that reputable and qualified contractors will be hired, but this might be the place to put in writing the requirement that they be accredited organic land care specialists.
Yeah, sounds reasonable, yeah.
And then lastly, on page 12, item number 8, the third sentence says, the agreement shall include references to all applicable landscape and management plans, be binding on all future owners, administrators, executors, and so forth. But, so this is going on the land record, but I mean, my concern is that pesticides and herbicides and synthetic nutrients not go into the Stony Brook. I mean, especially since it floods, and I think that my concern is, I know that this company is following up for a period of 3 years, and that if they change hands, if there's a new owner, it'll be on the land deed. But if they don't have a new owner and the 3 years goes by, that, for example, if this land care company is too expensive, that they put it out to bid. So I think it should just say current and future owners.
That's reasonable. Rick?
So, is that okay?
Rick, is that an issue there?
I don't think it's an issue. I mean, the agreement's signed by the current owner. So, I mean, they're binding themselves when it's signed, but it doesn't.
But what if they sell and?
Well, that's all future owners, administrators and executors in the signs and the signs.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
that would,
I mean,
it goes
if you
on the
think
land
it's
records, it
covered.
goes with the land.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna make reference to the landscape agreement. So,
And hopefully it'll be in the
management plan.
maintenance plan too.
Right, so
That-
it's gonna be in the maintenance plan, and then you're doing a document that has enforcement capabilities and has more teeth in it than typically applied in this community. So I don't think it's gonna make it a problem. So we could add the word current in it's inconsequential, but I think it's a very good thing that they're doing.
Okay. And as far as the draft goes, that's all that I have.
Good, good. Jim, you have anything? No? That way you,
I've sent Rick, as I said seconds ago, any observations I make, we'll use those in addition to what Carolyn cites. As I said 1 minute ago, I'd like to go on the record. I thoroughly, because I was absent at the June 5th hearing, and I was careful to make sure I watched and listened and reread all the materials submitted by the applicant. I, for one, think this application is deserving of accolades for the professional inclusion of consultants, soil scientists, engineers, the experience that this fine company brings from vast building projects around the United States. It is a significant enhancement to the town of Darien and the existing conditions on the site. I congratulate the applicant for their going above and beyond, in my view, and I'm excited to see this project come together as quickly as possible.
I might be bookending this. I think a lot of my questions were addressed, and I know every property stands on its own. But when I compare, for example, this property, which is 11 acres, versus the Darien Commons, and the infrastructure that was built in terms of infiltrators, and this, of course, is downstream with a much higher, as it was noted at the last meeting, higher velocity coming out from under I-95. I think there could have been more in the application, particularly as it relates to runoff from the property. So I think weighing against that was Joe Canis's comment that the applicant has done everything here that they could, and that there was no prudent and feasible alternative. But I do think that the prudent and feasible alternative could have been a higher degree of infiltrators, particularly downstream to I-95 at this location. I'm not suggesting, and I understand that in the whole watershed, this is a small piece of property. And I'm not suggesting changing the flow of the water, but I'm relating this to the flow off the property into the water. I think more could have been done.
I will continue with that piece, is that it's out of our jurisdiction per se, where most of it we're both talking about. I think the 50 feet, 100 feet area was tremendously improved. But we're only going down 2% in the actual amount of water that's coming off that property, not our piece, but the whole property versus what is there now. And due to the amount of flooding that is downstream from that, it would have been nice to see more infiltration, more detention on that other property. Now, maybe P&Z will take in on that and weigh in on that, because it's not in our jurisdiction, but I agree with that. On a more positive note, the 2 acres that are on the western side, which is a phenomenal, I call it bottomland floodplain, is tremendous. It's got huge trees in there. It's such a, almost a majestic place tucked around with everything developed all around it. And all I can say is that let's hope that it stays that way, and that whoever owns that property watches over that and makes sure that man-made things don't happen down in there.
we're the stewards.
Okay, if it becomes an easement, you're right.
Yeah, because as I understand
Good
what
point. If it becomes
the
a
applicant has
conservation-
proposed is that it becomes, and so,
But they need to look at it too, it's their property. So even though we'll be, so just to continue that thought, and there is a sewer easement through there. And we also want to make sure that our town, is very gingerly goes through to do anything on that sewer easement, such like they're going to flood-proof some of those manheads and manhole covers, and also, they've got to do their piece not to trample that area in there. So, as a matter of fact, I'm ready to volunteer and go in and pull some of that garbage out of there anytime. Seriously. I mean, it's such
Jay got his number.
I will. I'd be glad to. It's very impressive. So let's try to keep it that way. It's fantastic.
All right. I guess I'll weigh in last. Of the 2,000 acre watershed that is the Stony Brook, this is 0.5%, which is a lot. Okay, because there's a lot of acres there, considering we deal in onesies and twosies typically. I support this. I think they've done a maximum level of job pulling it away from the stream, which is where it is now. Now the water just goes straight into the stream. There's the 4-stage process that they've talked about, which I think some of the presentations are some of the most professional I've seen. And I've been on this commission now for 12 years, 13 years, something like that. And so I support this. The trees, I got the trees. This is I think the first applicant that's gone out and had Bartlett go out and assign a quality to each tree that was there, and make a judgment out there that was because. Just some of the numbers. I remember of the 147 here, I've written down that 54 were in poor condition. And I would argue that the current owner, if they were to do that, would have had, the poor trees would have had to come down anyway, or they were going to fall down. So I think this is going to be a cleanup, because when you have trees that are in poor condition, they start losing branches. People are around. God forbid, a health and safety issue. We've faced those sorts of things before on this commission. Where we go, hey, there's a big tree. It's in the wetlands. It's a shame, but it's reached its lifespan at this point in time. So I support this. I support this resolution, and I think that we should include the organic land care that. Carolyn mentioned about this. So, do you want us to vote on this now too? Okay. The motion on the table. Go ahead. The motion on the table is to support is to approve the resolution as discussed and amended.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the permit to conduct regulated activities with respect to application EPC 08-2024 with respect to TC Metro Development Inc.'s application for 1 Thorndale Circle and the adjoining properties.
Peter?
I'm second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Adopted.
I'm going to vote no on it, but that's fine. It's not a quality of the presentation. I think everyone's done a really superb professional job, but I do think more could have been done. But I'm happy to be the super minority on that vote.
Okay, so it's 4-1. Okay. Anybody else have any comments on it? Okay. Thank you. Jay? Okay, moving on. EPC 10-2024, PL 24-65-2420, Boston Post Road, YMCA of Darien, to replace both an existing concrete boat ramp and concrete dock foundation in an approximate 2-to-1 pond and other areas of resource of the property, which is currently supports the buildings, parking, and other related facilities for the YMCA. It lies on the south side of the Boston Post Road, approximately 550 feet west of Seagate Road, and is identified as map number 53, lot number 60. The zone is R1/2, and it is approximately 7.02 acres. So we're going to start the discussion.
Mr. Chairman, the application is to reconstruct, well, first of all, we know where the property is. It's the YMCA property, about 7 acres. It's a direct waterfront. For those that have been on the commission for some time, there was an application that was endorsed by this commission back in 2008, where they did a pretty substantial enhancement, renovation, construction on the parcel that included building additions, playgrounds, different enclosures, drainage, utilities, etc. The, again, property direct waterfront contains coastal resources. There's no inland wetlands on the parcel. It has coastal flood hazard area. Holly Pond, of course, is a coastal embayment. It has shorelands, which are areas that are unaffected by the dynamic forces of the flood. And there's some tidal wetlands on the property as well. Again, no inland wetlands. The EPC's jurisdiction is as a result of being with the activities being within 100 feet of Holly Pond. There have been 2 additional permits that have been approved, Army Corps of Engineers and the DEP permit. The again, this application is, there is a concrete boat ramp there. These are features that are pertinent to the functional component of the YMCA, where they do paddlecraft and learning about Holly Pond and other recreational activities. And there's an existing dock that is there as well. The boat ramp is in great disrepair. It is cracked, undermined, has lost much of its length as a result of being there for some number of years and the forces that Holly Pond and the shorefront exert on it. The foundation to the dock is also in disrepair, and the applicant's proposing to restore those, certainly in the same location, but also enhance them to become gain greater functionality, but also to be more sustainable. The project will involve upland access to construct. They've shown in their plans how they plan to access the site, and restore the space after the improvements occur, and other issues that were raised by the commission members and staff have been addressed and expressed in this agenda summary report. There's about 130 square feet of the upland review area, and about 600 square feet of the special flood hazard area that will be temporarily or permanently impacted. There's no direct impact on the tidal wetlands, little or no grade change, and no expected loss of large individuals or groups of trees. The engineer has reviewed the construction and is certified for the commission. There's no adverse impact on the dynamics of the flood. The flood, just to step back for a moment, the flooding occurs generally just along the shorefront because there's a pretty abrupt grade change there. So you have the V zone, which is the velocity zone, and you also have the A zone, which is more ponded water, but it's very narrow to the shorefront. But they, as a result of reconstructing these elements, they've certified no adverse impact on the dynamics of the flood, no rise in flood heights, no adverse impact on the resources or the abutting properties. Water quality is an issue. They're going to do they have a basic sediment erosion control plan that they intend to apply, but also they have certain constraints, and it's sort of a duplication of efforts in all both the local and either state or federal permits, that there's constraints about fueling, where you stockpile your materials, keep it out of the flooded spaces. They're not going to be doing repairs or parking the vehicles, et cetera, in the more critical areas along the edge of the shorefront. The Connecticut engineers also certified the floodproof nature of the features that they are proposing. And it's also known that they've adjusted, per staff's recommendation and our consulting engineers' recommendations, other elements to ensure that these will be productive more long-term. So that it's the way it's constructed. It's more of a floating piece that's going to kind of move with the changes in the shorefront, but there's control joints, there's dug in some of the edges, etc. And again, that's so it won't suffer the same kind of erosion that is occurring now. The drainage water quality design has been endorsed by the town's peer reviewer. Joe King's has reviewed it and has provided positive comments. Important, I think, in these kinds of projects is a basic flood contingency plan. So as they're working, what are they going to do in the event of a flood? Where to listen to for information, and then they have a series of activities that they're going to implement in the event of a storm. The last thing that we've had them do is we had them further what this commission started, several years ago in terms of planting, is that there was some planting that was applied to the shorefront under the prior permit. If you look carefully, you can see some of that, the remnants are still there. But we identified some areas that were in fact overgrown with lawn and invasives, and they're going to go in there, not invasive, but overgrown with lawn. And in the effort to displace some of the lawn and to filter runoff, better filter runoff, enhance the conservation values of this shore area, they've come up with a planting plan that is generally in scale with what they're proposing in terms of encroachments. The project engineers here, I'm available to answer questions. Just another thing, as part of the mitigation plan, they're going to clean up some of the debris that's accumulated along the shorefront there, particularly the concrete debris. But available to answer any questions, and the representative from RACE is here this evening too.
Do you have anything to say?
No, pretty good summary of all that. We've been at it for 12 months now. The original boat ramp.
And excuse me, if you're going to talk, you got to come up here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right. So
Just state your name for the record when you get up there, please.
State your name and your qualification to speak, please.
Hi, I'm Matt Schuler with Race Coastal Engineering. I'm an engineer working on this project under Steve Sternberg, who's the professional engineer who signed off on all that documentation that Rick mentioned before. I think what we're doing to this site's a major improvement. The existing boat ramp appears to be an unreinforced concrete slab without any tow protection or erosion control. So as Rick said, we're implementing a reinforced concrete slab with haunches, crushed stone base. We're restoring everything back to the grading that it originally was at. We're implementing planting plans as recommended by the Commission to mitigate water quality impacts and actually enhance the water quality of runoff into Holly Pond from Darien YMCA. And as far as the boat ramp repair, we're doing that in kind and in place. Again, it's going to be another reinforced concrete abutment essentially to affix the gangway landing to for access to the Holly Pond docks for Darien YMCA recreational activities. I think that about sums it up.
Thank you.
Can I ask him a question?
Of course.
So just two items. So the access road that comes around to the east side,
Yes.
you have there's a pavement area. I think that's where you're going to do your I guess you get rid of your dirt and all that there. But when you continue around, the way it's drawn there, you're really next to the building. You'll be taking out a couple of big trees. So I assume you're going to adjust that away from the building a little bit further.
Right.
And I also, and is that going to not be any kind of pavement going around there? That is going to be, you're going to put crushed rock or anything, or are you just going to let it rut out as you drive stuff through there?
There's going to be an anti-tracking pad at the entrance. I believe there's already an existing anti-tracking pad
Right,
at the entrance to
right.
the Darien YMCA.
But
As
what
far
happens
as
after that as you're walking?
we anticipate the contractor is going to access the site one time, stage all his equipment near where the work area is,
Okay.
perform the work, restore the work area, and then move all his equipment off. So ideally, equipment only accesses twice, once
Okay.
they're in there and then once to leave.
So worst case, you make some ruts and you just clean up the ruts as you leave.
Right, and the contractor will restore the area back to the previously existing
Okay.
conditions.
And then the other item, and I'm sure that the applicants know that, the YMCA knows that the ramp is still going to be 8 to 10 feet short where they're on low tide and they're going to be walking through mud. Do they realize that? Because it's, right now, the way the low tide is in there, there's still at least 8 feet, and then the way the dam is not holding water, it's even worse than that. So as long as I know that they think they're going to have clear walk to put their boats in at dead low tide, they will not. So.
Yeah, they understand that, and that was
Okay.
part of obviously working within the constraints of a general permit with the state. We had to replace the boat ramp with the same dimensions.
As it was
Right.
designed. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, that works fine for me. I just,
Right.
they're gonna get a little muddy feet. It's not bad.
Well,
Okay.
improvement of the current condition at the very least.
It is. That's good. Okay, fine. That's all I had. Thanks.
All right.
And in the plans, I don't see any indications of lights or lighting. Okay.
That's not part of the project, so.
All right, thank you.
Love you bring that up, though.
Yeah, thank you.
You okay?
Mr. Wright's watching out for us on Holly Pond, I know we're good.
All these Holly Pond things are
All I know is he didn't produce any photos
No photos.
from his kayak, so you're in good shape.
It will be a good improvement.
Got his waders on now.
But go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds very straightforward, the way it's being timed and everything to try to, and you're putting in a buffer to filter the runoff, displacing some of the lawn, I think that's great. So I don't have any further comments.
Okay. Anybody else? Nothing? Okay, Rick, are you gonna write this up then for next month?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we get to approval of minutes. Every commissioner should have received the May 1, 2024 regular meeting and continued public hearing minutes. I assume, Jim, you've done your normal
I did review.
edits and you've gotten
I
them?
did review both and sent to Rick.
Okay. Anybody else have any?
We love it.
I just had one thing. I sent it to Rick. I don't know if you saw that email. I don't know if that was a mistake or.
Yeah, I'll review it. It's just have to do with who made the introduction on the
Right.
application.
Because normally it says Mr. Talamelli and it said your name, so I didn't go back and watch the video, so I didn't.
He may have overstepped his bounds.
Right, but normally Rick does the summary, so
Yeah, I wouldn't pretend to do this.
That was the only thing I noticed.
Okay, so, Jim, can I have a movement?
Yeah.
Motion to approve the minutes of May 1.
Yes, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the minutes of the EPC regular meeting and continued public hearing of May 1, 2024.
I'd like to second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, we've got June 5th, 2024, regular meeting and continued public hearing. Jim, I assume that you gave your
I have done so.
your edits.
I've done so, I imagine others did as well.
Anybody have anything, questions or comments on this? No? Okay, can I have a motion to approve June 5?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting and continued public hearing minutes of June 5, 2024 for the Environmental Protection Commission.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved.
I'll abstain from that as I was not here, although I did watch the tape.
You're creating trouble tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the next piece of business, and I'm recused on it, so Jim Millard will be taking over the meeting, and then the meeting, after that, the meeting should adjourn, so
Thank you.
good luck.
Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Bye, Jim.
As you just heard, Rick has asked me to chair this piece of our agenda, and this is in our other business part of our agenda, the modification of EPC number 17-2018, coded PL-18-122 with respect to 1020 Post Road, 36 and 33 Old Kings Highway, South, Baywater Corbin Partners LLC. The original EPC permit authorized the piping of a water course and construction of a water treatment basin in an upland review area. This permit modification proposes to construct a temporary gravel crushed stone vehicular parking area, sidewalk, fences, and other related features in and proximate to a special flood hazard area and proximate to wetlands and water courses. This parcel, subject to this permit modification request, is identified as 33 Old Kings Highway South. This property lies along the east side of Old Kings Highway South, approximately 165 feet north of Corbin Drive, and is identified as map 38, lot 19, zone DO, and is 0.3398 acres.
Mr. Millard, I'll give you a very brief presentation. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it as Mr. Millard stated that this was a prior EPC application was for the development of this pretty substantial downtown redevelopment. And from that EPC application, there was a permitted to pipe a water course and to create these stormwater quality basins in this particular area. The area is along the river, the Goodwives River, and generally in the area of the stormwater basins, and you're all familiar with the gardens that were down in that space. There was a community garden down in that area as well. That phase of the project is substantially complete. There's a punch list of items that have to be addressed over the next few months. But the applicant has come before us and is seeking a modification of the existing EPC permit. They have eliminated the garden at this time and are proposing a temporary gravel parking area, crushed stone and gravel parking area, 25 cars, to assist with the parking, the lack of parking in the area, to allow for tenant occupancy or in general parking in the area where there's a general shortage as the rest of the project is being constructed, including the parking garages. So we have been working with the applicant to review this. We've identified potential issues. There has been changes to the plans, and alternatives have been considered throughout this process. The area is going to lie in already developed uplands. There'll be the de minimis changes in grade. There'll be no loss of trees. A portion of the parking will encroach within the special flood hazard area. However, there's pretty substantial setbacks that remain to the river itself. I think I calculated about 41 feet to the major portions of the river and the fringe wetland areas. It's about 20 feet from a very small man-made water course that's associated with the stormwater treatment features that are there. We said no significant, no trees of value or size are being lost. Grade change, generally 1 to 2 feet. And essentially what they're doing is excavating some space, putting a gravel basin, putting in a fence, a perimeter fence for protective purposes. They're putting in wheel stops. And also part of this is they're doing some improvements along the edge of the road at the request of staff in the town, including expansion of a sidewalk. That pieces have been omitted. There'll be a full 5-foot sidewalk, curbing, and a drainage structure to eliminate the potential for any ponding. The always has been a concern there too about the ability of somebody driving a car and kind of making their way up into the detention basin. The addition of the curb, the 8-inch curb, the sidewalk, and if you notice, there's some planting that's being proposed at the request of the Director of Public Works. Several trees and shrubs that are going to assist in taking care of that. There's been engineering confirmation of no adverse impact on drainage and adjoining properties. There's been engineering confirmation of no changes in the dynamics of the flood as well. And with the submission of that, including a sediment erosion control plan, there is no potential or limited potential for water quality impacts. They've also are using the fact that it is gravel, providing some infiltration into the ground as well. One thing that we raised and the engineer has addressed is things like snow plowing and the impact on the gravel, is that they provided snow shelves within the confines of this facility to store the snow, and they've committed to using plows with the sleds to limit the amount of plowing off of that that amount of gravel that's on the surface. So with that, The applicant is here this evening. I'm available to answer questions. I'm sorry I lost my voice in the middle of it, since I've been here since 6:45 this morning. But I'll do my best to answer any questions you have.
Rick, thank you. I think Attorney Maslin is here on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening,
We'll turn the
Attorney-
floor over to
yes.
you, sir.
Thank you. Attorney Robert Maslin, I represent the applicant. That was a great presentation of our application. Do you have any questions? I have a PowerPoint, and I don't know how to turn that one on. Somebody hit the right button on this and it's on, but I don't think we need that one because there's nobody in the audience but our people. Okay, so Rick went through the list of the features of this, and I'll skip through the slide presentation that I have. I presented this to Planning and Zoning last evening, and I think it would be just a good time saver if we just jump right to the plans here. This is the site plan and planting plan. So Rick mentioned sidewalks shown on this plan here. The plantings along Old Kings Highway South are along here. This is a new catch basin that goes into the drainage system that's already there. It's an upgrade. New curb along the road. If you've been out there, there's really no curb at all, and there's barely a place to walk. There's no sidewalk. 25 parking spaces. This line here is the flood zone boundary, so we're kind of a minimal area that's actually in a flood hazard zone. And this more of a straight, kind of a little bit wavy line is the 100-foot upland review area from Goodwise River. Down in this lower portion is the existing, there's a depression there, it's called a water quality basin, and that is for, what happens is the water goes into that basin, and then when it's beyond a certain level, it overflows and it goes down into this ditch, down into the river, but it's renovated by that point. Beehives are down along here. And the grading and soil and erosion control plan are here. You'll see, I missed it on the other slide, but these are green giants that will be planted up along here. I'm not sure there's much more to explain as far as the lighting, which I don't think you're all that concerned with. These are light posts that are on the adjacent property to the north. And what we are doing is installing light fixtures on the same poles facing toward the parking lot, and that's it. The fixtures are going to be similar to that, maybe not identical. So that's it in a nutshell. This is temporary. We expect it to be 2.5 to 3 years. And once this tenant, what the whole purpose of this primarily, although it's going to alleviate parking generally, is there's a tenant that will be in 34 Old Kings Highway South. And when the rest of the Corbin project is finished, that tenant is going to move into 1 Market Street. So it's a prominent tenant. 34 is directly across the street here. And the parking will be for that tenant. When the parking is no longer necessary for that tenant, the gravel is going to be removed, and this is going to turn into a public dog park. So David is here, and he's
I'm going to be
Please identify yourself for the record.
I'm going to be super brief. I'm David Genovese for the applicant. The key thing too, I know this isn't really a zoning matter, but I just wanted to give you like the higher level context. When we designed the Corbin project and went through the original approvals, it was approved as a whole, and it was designed with sufficient parking for the project as a whole. But over time, as we've been working on this for many, many, many years, since 2005, and over time as we got into it, we realized that if we did it in 2 phases, we could preserve the opportunity for the existing retailers that everybody really wanted to stay active in Darien. We could preserve their ability to stay active. We had the right to terminate the leases tell everybody to go take a 2 or 3 year vacation and come back. But it was our belief in talking to the tenants that everything is rosy. Helen Ainson, Barrett Bookstore, they would probably not come back if we closed them for 3 years, or they'd go relocate someplace else to another town. So we had made a commitment to zoning and to the residents of Darien that we would give them every opportunity to stay. We'd set their rents at a level that would work for them. And to be candid with you, we didn't anticipate the parking demand that would be generated by those stores as operating in the first phase. So if you just think about what was there before and what's there now, we added all the stores and Compass Real Estate and Bank of America and so on, where a gas station that generated no parking and then 2 single-story offices sat before, and we burdened the Center Street lot, for the most part, with all of the parking that those retailers would demand. So, what I spend a lot of my days just apologizing to people for, the pressure we're putting on these lots. And I've said, and I've explained to them, this is how we could keep the local businesses intact. So it's a short-term sacrifice by everyone. And, with this new tenant coming in to take the building that we were in, 34 Old Kings Highway South, we just know if we create this 25 spaces temporarily, it will prevent there being more pressure on that lot, which is a good thing. And its sidewalk sales begin tomorrow, so the parking is going to be really challenging for the next couple of days. We even hired a shuttle service to bring people from the Mechanic Street lot to town for the next 2 days, just to try to help. So, we're doing everything we can. We didn't want to create a parking lot there. The intention is over time to create, bring the garden back in a smaller form, have a dog park for the residents, and then a public open space if we can fit that in. So that's the long-term plan. We'll come back in 2 or 3 years and talk about that. Thank you very much.
Sir.
The only thing I would mention to is to pick up on some of the history. When David's company developed 1020, one of the positive things that was done was to repipe the drainage pipe that came down Brook Street, went under Grove Street Plaza, and then eventually under the Post Road. That was replaced, and that alleviated some of the stormwater management problems that existed 10, 15 years ago. As part of the 1020 development, there was some additional work done to increase the parking between 1020 and the buildings on Old Kings Highway South. And as part of Corbin 1, Phase 1, that parking lot's been reconfigured, number one. Number two, there are 2, you'll notice, driveways that go from Corbin directly into the parking lot that didn't exist before. And those are town right-of-way strips. And the other thing was the open drainage ditch that had, I think, almost no environmental value because it was concrete lined and just crappy looking. That's now an underground pipe. So there have been a lot of improvements, environmental improvements through the drainage and all. And I thought I would just pick up on some of the history because that I think is of concern to you, hopefully in a positive way. So that's our presentation. Rick I'd also mention that the engineer's here, Eric Lindquist, if you have any questions for him, but Rick has been very involved in this, and there's been a good dialogue and some very productive conversations and some tweaks to the plan that have worked out, I think, for the better. Rick, if I'm wrong, jump in. But that's basically what we have.
Thank you for your presentation.
Oh, and by the way, the bees are staying. I
Good.
wanted to mention that.
Good.
The Corbin honey.
I want to get some
Corbin
more of
honey.
that honey.
Yeah.
I guess following Eric's good lead on a monthly basis, I should turn to our commissioners to see if they have any questions or thoughts, particularly why Attorney Maslin's still with us.
Yeah, a couple. Obviously, it's got good infiltration now when it rains because it's a garden. This changes a bit when you put gravel. Goodwise River, we've had those big floods south of this location. We know north it slammed the Goodwise River facilities at the plows up there and everything else. But down below, did anything get flooded homes-wise south of this location? Because it makes a difference in how I'm going to present this.
Well, the river winds its way under the turnpike and then comes out
Right.
and then heads downstream along Old
Did
Kings
any
Highway.
of those
south there.
locations during those storms get flooded? There's one very tight
Oh,
one
yeah.
there with a small little bridge over it. I'm just curious.
I don't know the address, but if you were to go from Old Kings Highway South under the highway,
Right.
take a right on Old Kings Highway South, and then
Andrews Drive?
before Andrews Drive, there's a house
Okay.
that sits back.
Yeah, they got it.
There's a bridge
Yeah, right.
that was
It's
there.
kind of Andrews Drive combination.
Correct.
Okay, they
There were
got it.
two houses, I think,
Yeah,
that were
yeah.
owned by Joe Kelly in front, but then there was a house in the back with a bridge to his house.
Yeah.
That bridge collapsed
Yeah.
and caused a lot of chaos.
But after that, I don't know if anybody else got hit. I can't-
Other than that, I'm
Okay.
not aware of.
And I just bring up that concept because I know you're not trying to do any kind of
I
detention.
think that
other
bridge
than the other.
the bridge would collect debris and overflow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's
Previously,
not as
been
important to me that you have to have a, detention system. You have a detention system already for your
Yeah.
development, but just for this temporary piece, because there's limited damage down below anyway. Unlike Stony Brook gets nailed
What-
down further.
Eric
So-
wants to chime in, but the grading is going to be set so that it directs stormwater in toward this
Right,
system,
and that's positive too. yeah.
which is,
Okay, so that,
do you want to?
Yeah, I could just
wanna
chime
throw
in
in
and add a
some
little
stuff? Go
clarity
ahead.
to that. Yeah, sure. For the
Need
record,
your
my
name.
name is Eric Lindquist, Senior Project Manager
Yeah.
at Time Bond and Engineer in the state of Connecticut. So in terms of your concern about not having detention on site, this location within the watershed is so far south. If we were to detain, even though it would be infinitesimal, since it's such a small portion of the overall watershed, it would actually be worse because you'd be hitting the peaks for the river as it comes down. So the sooner we can get this out and into the river and out of here, it's actually better, believe it or not. But this is such a small portion of the watershed in relation to the bigger picture. Even with, and if you go through our engineering report, you can see the calculations that shows
Okay.
it's not even registered anything. If we put this here or anywhere in the watershed, really, 'cause it's such a small piece. But in terms of the water quality, like I said, this is gravel, it's gonna infiltrate better. And in order to put catch basins in here and a system underground or whatever, it's infeasible this close to the river. The water table's too high, and to get inverts out there, it just wouldn't even work. So, so further elaborate on this too, because I heard it called detention. This was not put in to detain anything. This was actually compensatory in nature because the phase 2 portion, or the phase 1 portion, which is the part that's constructed now, had really no limited water quality on the site. So the Environmental Protection Commission at the time asked us if we could do something. So we're not able to do anything with the water up there because it actually comes out through this culvert over here.
Right.
But this took downtown Darien, some area, so we said we'd set this up offline and infiltrate some water there. It's not really sized for anything, it was just maximized.
Okay.
So this was put in here to provide some level of water quality to compensate for what was going on phase 2.
Okay. All right. And
The other thing worth mentioning, and you just don't think of it this way all the time, this is at grade. There's no volume here, so if there's flood water, it's going to flow freely on top of the surface. It's not going to be diverted.
Right.
You know.
Right. I wasn't worried about that. No, I could see you had that. Although you just said a great, I was down there today, and it is interesting that there is quite a pitch coming to the south that you're going to have to, like, in order to get those two sets of cars on there. So you don't think you're going to need any retaining wall in
No,
order to
it's-
get that up to a level grade?
So what we've done here is it's about a 5% pitch across here, which is the
Yeah.
max you'd want to put on a parking lot.
Right.
So it's 5% across here, and as Rick had noted, it's actually, if you were to do an earth quantity analysis on this, it would be a net cut,
Okay.
very small. So in terms of compensatory storage of the river, you're actually providing a very small amount, but some more storage in the area, because this is actually depressing a little bit to compensate for what you're talking about. So it's kind of like shaving off back here a bit, and then coming straight through, so.
Okay. And my last comment was the fence. You got another design for that fence? It looks so commercial.
Can
and
I?
just kind of
Yeah, thank you. We actually talked about this today,
Okay.
and I'm happy you brought it up. We haven't talked to our neighbor. We've been collaborating with the owners of 23 Old Kings Highway South on this, and they're supportive. They're allowing us to install lighting there. Question came up, could we install just a split rail fence across the thing instead of a chain link fence? And at some point, if we make a dog park there, we would put, wide openings, mesh across that you wouldn't see. But it would look more residential We
New
think it
England-
look-
New
we
England
think-
looking.
We think it would look better.
Okay.
The fence out
I don't know
there
if
now
that's an
doesn't look
issue
very
from-
good, but this would have been an improvement because it's like black vinyl chain link fence. You really don't see it disappears.
Okay.
It's the silver stuff you really notice it pops out, but when you put a new black vinyl in there, it really does disappear and you don't see it.
It looks like
But-
the kind they put up to collect garbage along the road.
Yeah,
Right.
they
That's a
can-
personal opinion.
If
Like
you
what's
were
out
to-
there now looks horrible.
If you were to ask us to go split rail fence with mesh if needed, we are happy to do that. So-
No, it's, I'm
And is
just,
the
one
proposed-
opinion here, just
Sorry,
one opinion.
does the proposed fencing ring the whole thing?
No, it's, Eric, it's just,
There's an existing fence
Oh,
here
it's here
now.
and
There's
here,
an
here and
existing
here.
fence right here now.
Yeah.
So we're just providing it here, which is a way of kind of protecting people that are using the lot so they don't go into these channels and rivers and
No, that's
and
good.
things like that.
And the front piece has no
No
fencing or
fence.
some,
No fence.
no, it'll be
No
open.
There's only two sides of fence we're proposing, like right along here that wrap the parking. There's existing here and there's nothing here.
Right.
So it's a minor thing, so don't, I'm done. Go ahead.
No, I think this is a good plan and balances a lot of interests, so, and with minimum impact on the environment. My only question is, for permit purposes, is there a expiration date for the activity that could be incorporated in the permit that is reasonable to the applicant?
we could do it on completion
we-
of Market Street.
I'm sorry?
We could just do it when the tenant moves to Market Street, so on the completion of.
Well, as far as setting this up, this is a modification of an existing approval. And this sort of has a long-term, multi-year process to it. So this would fit right into that. I don't think if your question is, are we going to run into an expiration problem? I don't think so.
No, I guess my question
You want
is
it to sunset.
for this activity,
Right.
which I
That's-
understand is
yeah.
temporary, is there a date that we can relate to this temporary activity that was reasonable to, you understand what I'm
I
saying?
understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be done in 2 years. I'm a real estate developer. I have to be optimistic by nature, or I would not be able to do what I do. The tenant that is taking the space is going to be here temporarily, then they'll relocate to 1 Market Street when it's done. They've signed leases for both spaces. So when that tenant relocates to 1 Market Street, when we get this temporary certificate of occupancy or the CO, and they relocate, we could have this lapse. So I would say 2 years, Bob, my construction team might say 2.5, but if we said 3 years, subject to extension, and you just acknowledge that it's for this particular tenant. By the way, we're super excited. It leaked today to Bloomberg, so it'll be published tomorrow, but the tenant is McKinsey. So we are really proud of the fact that Darien is attracting McKinsey to relocate their offices. That's
Nice.
not a tenant who would have considered coming to Darien 5 or 10 years ago.
And
So
when you
that's
say
where-
1 Market Street, this is 1 Market Street Stamford, right?
No.
No, no.
Where is 1
We
Market Street?
created new streets inside of the Corbin district.
Ah.
One of them, the entry is called it Penny Lane. These are actually now named tax lots.
Penny Lane?
Penny Lane,
I
in
love
honor of
that.
Penny.
Yeah.
Glassmeyer, my partner. So Penny Lane is the entry off the Post Road by Webster Bank, and then Market Street runs across behind the Post Road stores on the other side of Market Street, which then connects to Corbin Drive, if you can envision that. It connects kind of to the street where, behind Barrett Bookstore and Shoes and More, is the office building, that we're calling 1 Market. And Aon, McKinsey, Jenny Montgomery Scott, Crestwood Advisors have all signed leases for that building. So, but McKinsey's really great, we're really excited about this.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great customers for the downtown, for the restaurants, the shops, so it's a good outcome.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just thinking more in terms of a date subject to renewal rather than having
How about this?
open-ended.
How about 5 years, which is a typical wetland expiration, with the conversion to the park within, call it a year after the CO is issued on Market Street?
That would be fine, something like that.
Something like that? Is that kind of the idea you have?
I'm fine with that, but I'm only speaking of myself. I just think we need to have a definitive date.
It should sunset.
Yes.
I totally agree.
Yeah, if that's,
It's not to
Totally
apply
fine.
pressure in any way.
No, no.
It's just to make sure it's not a perpetual temporary
Yeah,
thing.
we're fine
is
with
that
that.
workable for you, Rick? Okay.
We'll make it work.
That'd be great.
Well, David will for sure make it work, because he makes everything else
We
work.
have to make it.
So I just want to be clear, when is it
I think we're talking about 5 years.
5 years on the outside,
Right, 5 years on.
Which is our typical permit.
and then the conversion to the park,
When the
Takes
tenant-
place-
1 year
Within
after,
1 year
1 year
after
after the
expiration.
CO for Market Street.
Right.
That would be fine.
Subject to review by the commission again if the 5-year
Yeah, sure.
time horizon doesn't work.
Yep.
Is that okay with everyone else? I'm just speaking about myself.
Without a doubt.
Are you done?
Yes.
Just procedurally, the dog park, will that be coming before this commission again in the future, or is that?
I
went
spoke
to
with
some-
Rick about that briefly, and one of the things that we did talk about was maybe having the park reviewed on a staff level.
Okay.
But of course, it's up to you. I mean,
Okay, but there will be
You're-
some
There'll be
review.
review, yes.
Okay. And then getting back to the fence, given that you are in the floodplain there, you had mentioned, split rail fence, would that meet the requirements of needing to be flood-proof?
Yeah, I mean,
It will.
we could specify the detail and make sure of that. It would just require the posts be like in concrete and anchored and things like that. Same thing as the chain link fence. The split rail will probably be better in terms of being, I mean, right now the fence is completely outside the floodplain except for this little area right here. And that's not really in a velocity area. The area you really get concerned about with fencing near a river is like in the velocity zone of the river. Because they can
Okay.
become nets, they can trap debris and things like that. But this is up the side of the channel, so that velocity is really not gonna hinder this part of the fence, so
is
I
this
doubt
the
it's gonna be an
floodway?
issue.
This
No,
looks like the floodway line.
That's probably the floodway, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that it goes that way. And given that there are wheel stops, the fence is still necessary?
Yeah, the wheel stop is for the cars, so
Yeah.
they don't drive into the channel, because
Right,
the
right.
fence is, fence is kind of not as, well, this will give them like oop, I hit it. So that's really for the cars, the fence is more for the people.
Oh, I see, okay. Okay, just a couple other little questions. On page 9 of the drainage memorandum, Rick, in your summary, you had mentioned that there wouldn't be any loss of trees, but item number 3 says hold tree cutting meeting. I don't know if this
That
is just
was-
kind of like a boilerplate.
That was a boilerplate, it was left over because the old survey did show a tree on here, and we thought, so when we did it, and then we realized that that tree's not there, so.
Okay.
So that should have been taken off. But
And
good catch.
similarly, item 12 says install final surface course of pavement for parking area and roadway.
Sort of course of, well,
It's-
there is, out on the road here, there is pavement, because we have to saw cut to put the curb in,
Oh,
so we'll be
okay.
paving in that area.
Okay, because just the parking lot itself is going to be gravel or processed stone or something like that. And then we talked about the green space, and then in the punch list, this is just kind of my pet peeve. One of the items that Rick had mentioned was, and they sound very similar, but butterfly weed. Butterfly bush. It's actually 50 units of butterfly weed that's going in. Right, that's what was in the
I don't,
Landscape?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
honestly.
but that's not my wheelhouse.
Okay,
Yeah, we've been in
that's
close
It was
connection.
whatever
The towers
ever
and-
on the plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the plan, the towers in gold on the plant list.
From phase 2, are you talking about in here for the
It was-
basin?
It's the punch list for the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the
yeah,
Corbin
yes.
block PowerPoint, and
Yep.
it mentioned a bunch of different plants, and it mentioned butterfly weed. So I just wanted to confirm that that's
Yeah,
what
that's-
it is, because it's 50 units of, so.
Yeah, this has to get planted up with wetland vegetation, things like that. So
That
assuming
was gonna be my next
that's-
question,
that's
because
what that's
it
about,
doesn't look
punch
like
list.
there's been anything put in there right now.
Yeah, that's part of the punch list stuff, I believe, that's been talked about, and that was another landscape architect on the project for the Corbin Park.
And then I noticed that there's also like a lot of invasives around the, you said it's not a detention pond, but this.
Water quality basin.
Okay, basin, okay. The basin, there are a lot of, there's mugwort, and there are a lot of vines coming off the trees and things. Is there any plan to clean up any of that?
Certainly something.
You
we
mean
can
like
do.
that?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I mean,
Yes.
I think we've been working through this. This has been a little bit of a, process, just getting this right, because there was too much water in it. The elevation wasn't right. Rick's been great kind of helping our team.
Yeah,
get
not
this-
just in the basin,
No,
but
and around
actually
it?
around
Yeah.
it.
We
Yeah,
are
there's
having
a
a
lot.
basis.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, and then a little
You
bit
mean
of debris
like
as well, I
this
noticed.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, Okay.
One of the problems is that Eric made it such a such a fertile piece of land that all this stuff grows.
Right. I think that's all I had. Right, okay, that's all I had.
I had one other, did you have anything, Rick?
No?
I had one other request, because we went to the Planning and Zoning Commission last evening, they closed the public hearing, they're waiting for a report from the EPC. A report, which is a statutory buzzword. Is there a way to kind of authorize Rick to generate some kind of report that would satisfy that requirement, or I'm not sure how you want to render a decision on this, but
Is this report, Counselor, a letter that says you've been before us this evening?
and you like it, basically.
This was
It's either
kind
an
of
approval,
favorably received
it's
by,
it's either,
by the commission?
it's either it's approved, or, you know, you've, a formal decision is going to be later, but it's approved.
They're gonna vote on the modification.
Oh, you're gonna vote on it
request
tonight?
Tonight.
Oh,
And it's gonna say it's, you know, approved or denied or whatever. but
Then
approved
forget
with
what I said, if
conditions.
that's what you're going to do,
Yeah.
then that's exactly what
I
we
was just gonna ask Rick, proper procedure, oh, we're going to.
Yeah, so it is a modification request, and then someone's gonna make a motion to approve the modification request as, you know, perhaps as you've modified it here tonight. And we're gonna talk about the sunset element of it. And then are you doing, in lieu of it, you're
Yeah,
gonna do a revised plan, we'll do a different alternative fence?
Yep,
And, you know, just recommendations to kind of remove the debris and trim up the invasives.
The wetland mix in the
And-
basin.
And then as far as the punch list item, they're working on the punch list items. I know they're redoing the survey at this point, and they're working on doing the re-landscaping and all that, so.
So let me
that's
be
in
sure I have
process.
this right first. We're going to draft a resolution.
We're just gonna either approve or, you know, or whatever your action is, we're just gonna write them a letter saying, if it's approved, the modification proposal would be approved with these.
In accordance with these agreements.
Mhm.
and the modification of the fence, clean up the invasives around the
Debris.
basin,
I think we're gonna do a
Basin,
clarification
catch
of
basin area.
of when it was going to be removed, right?
and the timing, 5
The
years,
timing.
and 1 year after
Mhm.
CO for,
Yeah, it's our
Dave,
standard
you plan on
period
getting
of
the
five.
COs kind of simultaneously,
Well,
so,
as each space is finished.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's our standard 5 years of permit that we issue here at
Mhm.
EPC, plus the period of time you need for the conversion
Yeah,
to the other use.
yep,
Yep.
okay. That's it.
Anybody else have any questions? I think then it's appropriate to ask one of our commissioners to make a motion to approve EPC 17-2018.
So I'll make a motion to approve the application of EPC 17-2018, which is for a permit modification to reflect the temporary activity subject to the conditions that were outlined in public hearing. One, change in the fencing to reflect the comments. Two, to provide for a sunset of this specific temporary activity. And then 3, to clean up the invasives and perform other related cleanup work.
That's quite a motion. Can we have a motion to
I will second.
second that? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Mr. Genovese, thank you.
So is that coming back in?
No.
I don't think so. I think he
You
is.
went.
I think he is. So with that in mind, looking at our agenda, I think our next piece of business With respect to tonight's meeting, is to ask someone to make a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this regular meeting of July 10th, 2024.
I will second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
That was a lot easier than the
That was
last
a
one, right?
lot shorter motion.